Lama Francis, in watching you give lectures, deal with people in everyday situations, in question and answer sessions, what I observed first and have observed all the time is your incredible capability of empathy, that you seem to feel what people are up to. The way you answer questions is sometimes as if you were reading people's minds.
No, maybe it's because I've been through many of the problems of the people, that's why. And no, it's not really, I wouldn't say empathy, it's just try to be open and listen to the people, to know what they really want to know and what they want to know behind the question. This is the most important. Sometimes you are just in a rush, then you answer quickly to the question. You don't listen to the question, or you listen just to the question. And what is very important is just to feel the whole atmosphere and feel the personality. That's why I really like to have a deeper relationship with the people and to know them better and so on, because you know different aspects of their lives and so on. So you can really feel the atmosphere. I think feeling is the only way to answer. Otherwise, you use your mind, your intelligence only, and this is limited.
Has that always been part of your personality, or has it particularly developed through your training as a Lama?
It's difficult to say. I think I could really feel the people already. Since as far as I can remember, in my childhood I was very, very sensitive, but this was blocked. I think this was the structure of the teaching, the education, the society, and so on. You're not really likely to express feelings, and you're not very likely to express what you feel about people. And also, when you're very concerned about yourself only, then this capacity of just listening and feeling the people is not open. So I think it's a little bit both of them. It was present, and I'm trying still now more and more to open myself. And some people complain that it's very difficult to have a relationship with me and to have contact. They feel I'm not protected, but it's difficult to have an access. So I'm trying to. Maybe I said this is still the fortress of ego. I'm still protecting, preserving some kind of territory, some kind of privacy, and I have to give up this also.
Could it be that it's part of the religious setup that those people are not used to?
Could be.
I mean, the outer appearance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as a monk, of course, I have to behave in a way which is maybe not. For example, in Germany, people like to hug and kiss, a lot, and I shake hand, And then in the beginning, people were a little bit. They didn't know how to express their, we could say love or affection or whatever, and it was. Sometimes there was movement like they come to you and then you show the hand, you shake hand, and you can just shake hand with a lot of affection. It's not a problem. So maybe it's part of this, and maybe part of the fact that there is a mystery around lamas, and then so it's mysterious. You don't know how to behave and how to handle a lama. It's difficult sometimes.
In your case, people seem very much to feel that you're one of us. People call you Francis, and at the same time you're Lama, and both seem to be important, both closeness with the people and a slight distance, so that there can be some exchange, like in an electric current. It's good to have some duality to start with. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I really like it. I appreciate this because in the beginning I didn't like the difference. I like to be. I'm like people. I have the same problems. Maybe I have more space to deal with the problem, but I have the same difficulty, the same problem. So I'm nothing special. And at the same time, I'm a picture. So I have to be aware of that. So I have to keep this appearance. This is a help for beings, for the people. When I said beings, already sounds like I'm watching from above, but it's really necessary to have some kind of distance. It hasn't been to be artificial. Before I was even more close from people, so close that I disappeared. I was like a sponge, So I could just tune to the mind of people and be just like them and disappear. and I realized it was not always good. Sometimes it's okay, but sometimes not. It's good to have some kind of I wouldn't say dark side, but hidden dimension. But this, I think, comes from your mind, from your realization. If you have it, then naturally there is this difference. You don't have to make it; it happens, and then you can be close with people. But it's good sometimes to, especially when people come too not too friendly, or it's difficult to express this. There is a kind of they lose the sense of the Lama, and it's only a friend, and then even it's just like anyone else. So there is nothing against my feelings. I don't care, When I meet people in the street, they're just like me, and I don't care. But in a situation where I am now, it's good to keep this appearance of a Lama, and this is useful. And some people, it's funny because in France we use this polite form when we speak, vous for when you speak to people that like elder or people that you have to respect and so on. And I have some friends in the centers they don't know how to use tu or vous. They're a little bit confused, and I never push it in one way or another. I just let it natural. And it's funny, in some circumstances they call me Francis, and they said you, but tu peux faire ci, tu peux faire ça, etc. and so on. And sometimes they would call me Lama Tsony, can you, using the vous then. The same person, talking to me in different circumstances. And it's nice like this, it's okay. But I don't make a big thing about it, just happened this way, and that's it.
As far as I know, you have had your monk's robes with you half your life now.
Mm.
How do you feel about those two halves?
I don't think much difference. I don't see much difference because the mind was more or less the same. It was just a bit more raw in the beginning, but the quality or whatever good aspect you can see, or I can see now in me, I can see that they were always there. It's really funny to discover how much you make progress, but it's like finding new things, finding things which always been there, not new things. And the first part of my life, so up to the age of 19, was just following a kind of karmic flow, studies and then living in Paris and so on. And there was not big creativity in that. And then the first part of my life as a monk and practicing the Dharma was more training. Now I feel more space opening. I feel more freedom to use creativity than I was a lot before. I was a lot by myself.
When in social situations, the way you behave seems to suggest that you were more a person who was, great fun to be around and who was more naughty than a very good boy. Is that true?
Oh, yes, it's true. It's funny to see when I left Paris and my friends, the circle of friends just explodes. They just went in different horizons, and I had a quite agitated teenage, to say the least, and even at school, I think when the mind is happy, then you're joyful, and maybe some people it seems like indiscipline or. Maybe it was some time, but basically it was just joy of life.
So you were not a very miserable person who then turned to Buddhism and became a monk and tried to work the misery out. You basically, it's not like disgust with samsara.
In a way, yes. It's not like Samsara for me was the life in Paris, and then there was not much opportunity. Rather that try to escape from something I didn't like is try to take a good direction in life. It was different. It was not leaving something, but going for something. And the life I was living there was nothing was very interesting to me. There was not many options. You could be in the society very much, or out of the society. I was born and raised in a very tough borough of Paris, so there was a lot of aggression, a lot of things like this, and then I could easily, be involved in this movement and then go very far, and so be like an outlaw or something. This could have been possible. I think the basic goodness of mind at some point would have wake me up, but this could have been possible, and I didn't like this idea, and I didn't like the idea of having a life with no creativity, with no meaning in it, just 9 to 5 work, and then just with no special hope, just to get a house on credit, so paid after 20 years. So what? That's not life. So these two options, they were not really enjoyable. So I was looking for something else.
And how did that contact happen?
Through books. At one moment in my life, I felt very stupid. I thought that I knew nothing, and then I really had to learn. So I started to absorb everything. So I read a lot of books. I was between 16, 17, something like this. And then I read everything I could find in the field of psychology and sociology and spirituality a lot. I really was interested in spirituality. And then I just came very naturally across books like Teachings of Kundreul Rinpoche, and teachings of Chögyam Trungpa Rinpoche, and this was the very big impression in my life. And then I just decided to go in this way, and then I just made my way to the center where at this time existent was the center in Scotland, founded by Trungpa Rinpoche. So that's how it came. Just I think mainly through books.
And it was there in Shamar Rinpoche that you became a monk?
No, I just stayed there 2 weeks. It was just a very short time. I had the intention. I have no special idea. I just wanted to leave my old style of life and go into a spiritual way. And so I was ready to stay there. I had no plan, but it was not possible for many reasons to stay in this center. So they just gave me the address of the center in France, in Dordogne, Kundreul Ling, which was just starting, and then I went there. And then it was in 76, and I took vows in 78, so 2 years later.
And Gendun Rinpoche was there already when you came
yes.
there?
It was I would say the first Lama I really met. So, yeah. First Lama, good Lama, huh? first thought, best thought. So, it was the good teacher, perfect teacher, and I relied upon his teaching for everything. I just got everything from him. All teachings, all initiations, all vows, everything.
What was the first Dharma teaching of which you remember that it hit?
Very strongly it was the Dakpo Tarjian, the Jewel Ornament of Liberation. We studied in 78 in a very intensive way with Khenpo Tsuten Gyamtso Rinpoche in Dordogne. And the chapter on impermanence and karma was really strong. This was probably due to the intensity of the study. It was like a retreat, study retreat, and due to the blessing of the Khenpo Rinpoche also. So it was really a strong impact, and that's why I decided to take the vow, because of these 2 chapters, impermanence and karma.
It was not so that somebody tried to persuade you and say it's better?
No, because before that I was not decided of being a monk at all. I just said for me it was just the same to practice as a layman or as a monk, and I have no special intention of becoming a monk. And it was only this teaching makes a change, make me understand that if I want to really do something in this life which is very short, I have to do it fully.
Isn't being monk sometimes like heightening your neurosis? Or like, I imagine that when you have a vow to abstain from sexuality, your desire gets very heightened, like a wild animal in a cage. And have you had times when that was really very hard to stay with the vows?
Sure. Not every day, but almost. No, it's very difficult. It's very difficult. That's why the path of the monk is not the path of everybody. You really have to have this aspiration. You can see the people now when I meet people, I can feel this potentiality, this monkhood or this anihood as a potentiality, and it's really difficult. But you know, we are in this world, and this world is called the world of desire, because we are born here through desire. So if you really want to go to the heart of the problem, you have to go straight to desire. And the best way I found, in my personal view, and following the instruction of Gendun Rinpoche and Khenpo Rinpoche at this time, it was that taking the vows of monk was the best thing. And also at this time I had a dream with Holiness Karmapa was indicating this, you know. There was a moment I had a dream with him. It was, you know, it's like the unconscious mind maybe was talking. I remember now this dream. And it was few weeks before I decided I had this big change in my mind. And there was this Holiness who was giving an initiation to most of the Yapse, the regent, and the many Lamas and Rinpoches. And it was in a big temple. And then I came in the temple to have the initiation, and I was still a lay person. And he looked at me and said, "You're the monk here?" He said like this. Then he said, "Okay, you can come on." Then he cut a little piece of my hair, make a little rounded ball, and then put it in his navel like this. And this had a very strong impact also. I think it will be the final touch to change the mind. But this is a wonderful dream, but it's just a dream. But it doesn't make your life easy. And sometimes it's difficult, of course. But every hard work is difficult. What is difficult is to waste energy to work for something which is meaningless. So when you work hard for something which is meaningful, the joy is present, and though you know it's difficult, and then you still continue. And it's not only difficult; there is now great advantages. My main concern in life was freedom. So it maybe seems paradoxal to say, as a monk I found freedom, but for me that's the absolute freedom.
Oh, what I personally find very pleasing in the few glimpses I have had of your way of handling things is that despite being an ascetic practitioner in some way of the Dharma, at the same time, you know, you like beautiful things. You like listening to music, you like perfumes and so on. You're not an unsensual, dry, bony person at all.
I think it's important to respect one's personality. If you try to suppress too much your personality, what you suppress this way pop out another way. So it's like making compromise. You work hard on the heart of the problem, and then there is side things, you know, that you can maybe be a little bit loose on it. And discipline is the work of being we could say tight and loose, you know, to have some awareness and mindfulness, and be able to be relaxed sometimes also, and to be always aware not to be too relaxed to become too loose and do anything, and not to be too tight also, because when you're too tight then you break, and then nothing can be done. So it's ego working against ego, so you have to be very flexible. But of course, it's, in my view now, I perceive this aspect of life with a sense of humor also. So I know I'm a little bit caught up in these things, like perfume is a bit of a trip, you know, and painting is a bit of a trip, and music is a bit of a trip. I think I could just drop it quite easily. But I said, okay, just see some colors in the life, and maybe makes a way of discussion with other people. Otherwise, I wouldn't have any subject of discussion at all.
I was just, when you said that maybe you found freedom by being a monk, I saw you on a Harley Davidson And I could very well imagine, you know, like an advertisement, you in your robes riding a Harley, the ultimate freedom, something of that sort.
Somebody make the proposition like this, you know, that I should ask Harley Davidson to sponsor me a motorbike. But I said no, I don't want to do that, because I wouldn't sell my image, because they don't care about me. They would sell the image of the Buddha. The robe is not me. The robe is the Buddha. So it's not. I cannot sell what doesn't belong to me. So I would never do that. And also, this is a bit of a trip, you know. Also, and when I talk with some friends who are very much into psychology and psychoanalysis, and when I talk about the fact that I really enjoy like riding motorbikes instead of being in the car, and they said, "Oh, this is really sexual." And of course, you know, everything is an expression of desire, and this is a part of the desire. So, being aware of this and being able at the same time to know where is the limit and where is the balance is the most important. I think we have to live in the middle way. We have to balance things, and also it's a dream. I think there's never. I would be maybe now I feel that I would be how do you say, if this dream take place, then I would have to find another dream. You know, it's like endlessly you have to find new fantasy for your mind. So I just keep it in a little corner of my mind, but it's nothing more.
Oh, talking about desire, in the talk you gave yesterday, you talked about anger and desire and ignorance, and basically from the point of view of how to get rid of them. Mm-hmm. How does giving up mind poisons and transmuting mind poisons, how do they go together, or what's the difference?
I think giving up mind poison is the first step. Transmuting them, it's the second step. So in the first, you know that fire burns, so don't put your hand in the fire. So that's clear. It's like what you teach to all children. When you have a child and you say fire is dangerous, don't go to the fire. And this is the way to avoid the pain of suffering. But then when they grow older, you can teach them how to cook food on fire and how to use the fire. But only when they know that fire is burning, and then if you play like a child with fire, you're going to burn your hand. So then when you have enough awareness, you can see awareness, I would say, and realization of mind nature, and you can see that whatever arises in terms of poison in the mind is a movement of mind. So you see straight at its nature. And so in this vision, then you see the mind itself. Seeing the mind, you see the wisdom, because the basic essence of mind is wisdom and purity. But it's very difficult, because it's a very subtle poison. Just hook you up again without you noticing anything. So I think basically it's the same. It's the same. It's just different approaches for different level of capacity.
I don't know if we are now getting too philosophical, but I found that in this community, people talk a lot about what they hear about mind being the source of phenomena. And I think that's a very subtle thing and very hard to understand, actually. I have a neighbor and he's a student of philosophy, among other things, and we sometimes discuss that. And sometimes the whole Buddhist doctrine of the mind being the source of phenomena sounds very much like some kind of solipsist idealism. The outer world is just a subjective dream. How does that look from your experience?
Not only the outer world, yourself too. Yourself too is just a subjective reality. So it's important to have this truth to be said and to be explained and to study it and so on. But the most important thing is to really practice and to digest these teachings. Otherwise, it's just a mind game, and we have so many. I think it's the tendency now in Europe to have this to absorb information, and this is one more information, and it doesn't change our life, or even in the worst case, it will be an excuse for anything. So it's a very difficult thing. So that's why people should really practice. Practice, I mean sit and watch the mind. It's only then, when you watch the mind, and you know if it's everything is mind or not. It's not because you say it or because the teachers say it. And that's the only way to make it go down from the head down to the heart, or even to the guts. So it's really in you. It's really part of you. That's the only way.
There's a poem by the American poet Wallace Stevens that is called "The Palm Tree at the End of the Mind."
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how that feels for you, but for many people I know, including myself, the question, is there anything outside of the mind, is like a riddle that's very hard to solve. And to just say no seems a bit too simple-minded. Has mind really made things we don't know, like stars that we cannot see?
If you cannot see them, feel them, hear them, they're not existent. Or think about them. So this is a philosophical approach. There is two approaches in this case. There is first the intellectual approach, where you're going to use the logic, and this is the work of the Khenpos. They're going to explain you in a rational way why it is like this and like that, and why everything is mind, and how nothing can be out of mind. This can be very clearly and rationally explained. But this is just a concept, and even this explanation is part of the mind. So then it's only on the base of the certainty you gain with the study, with the reflection, that you can start to meditate. And then you have a direct approach. Then you know it. There is no other way. There's no other way.
To me personally, to say what you don't see, hear, experience and so on is not existent sounds like something you yourself warn against sometimes. That, just indifference, what we don't know about doesn't exist. And for such a long time, people did not know about people on the other half of the world, mm-hmm. or planets that were discovered later. It seems somehow something seems to be missing when you see it that way.
Yeah, but there's two problems in this, what you say. One problem is the problem of knowing if there is an objective reality beyond our sense perceptions, including the mental. So this is one problem. And the other problem is when you know something about other, do you care for them? And obviously you cannot care for people you don't know. Or you can care in a general sense for all sentient beings, even those you ignore now. So this is one thing, the relative truth. But the ultimate truth is, do these beings and this world have an objective reality? And then are they only existent because I conceive them in one way or another, through senses or through mind? So I think it's two problems, different. It's having a basic tendency of indifference to people you know and people you may ignore, and try to know if there is an objective reality to being, and then of course to yourself too. Because we always said the world is an illusion, the beings are an illusion, but we are part of this illusion. We are just like sentient beings. We have the same nature. We have the clear light. We have the clarity of mind. And so there is no difference in that sense.
I have never quite figured out why Buddhism on the one hand teaches arisal, codependent arising, and on the other hand there are those mind origin teachings. I don't really quite see how they belong together, because sometimes the codependent arising view is used as a counter to counteract theistic beliefs that one universal mind creates things like Brahman. Mm-hmm. And on the other hand, we seem to end up with a view that things are only existent with a mind experiencing them, mm-hmm. and on the other hand they couldn't come together in the mind without all those codependent mm-hmm. Conditions.
Yeah, but that's always the coexistence of the two truths, the two aspects of reality. On the ultimate sense, everything is born from the mind. It's the material of mind, made out of mind, you could say, built up with mind. And so that's the ultimate truth. And in this relative truth, there is a movement in this absolute truth, there is the relative truth, a movement taking place. So when out of the mind something appears, it appears because of the interdependent cause and condition. So the karma belongs to this relative truth, and so the beings and so on. So this was not built up by one great God or whatever you want to call it. It's all we have to say that each sentient being who has ego clinging and perceive the world is God, but it's a God of confusion, so it's not really a God. So it's the two truths together, which it's a very subtle thing to understand, that at the same time as a basic reality, mind is empty, and out of this emptiness, like an hologram, shapes, people, beings take place, and they have, because the mind have this nature of perception, they are aware, but instead of being self-aware and just being in the ultimate truth of wisdom, they are aware in duality, so they perceive object outside and so on. But this arisal of phenomena is due to the karma, the sensations and so on, this chain of the 12th link of interdependence. Does it make sense?
I'm still wondering if, like, rocks, water, wind, all those phenomena are created by mind. As a Buddhist, I somehow feel that there must be a very intense connection, but as somebody who grew up in a more Western and more dualistic view of the world, it seems very hard to imagine that for, all those billions of years that the earth was here before there were any animals or mammals, all this should already be a mind projection. It's as if it were the same thing upside down. When we look at it from the point of view of biology, then what we learned in school was first there was inorganic matter like water, rocks and so on. From that somehow organic life developed and became more and more complex, and finally, like the crown of that, there was consciousness that evolved more and more until it achieved some clarity as in human beings. And somehow it would be very amazing if that mind that seems to be at the very upper end of the evolutionary ladder
that's the
been
problem
there from the
of
beginning.
taking things in time, in terms of space and time, and even time is a subject reality. Time is just because subject is there, so suddenly when this ego clinging is present, then makes the definition of space, and around him the definition of time. So it's just like in your dream. When you dream, you have rocks, you have flowers, it's wonderful, you can have river flowing and so on. And then who built all these things? When were they created? So dream is a fleeting experience, which is coming one instant and disappear. Because of a very strong tendency, our life is experimented from instant to instant. So from instant to instant, we perceive this film, this illusion, and then we start to grasp it, and we start to find one origin to this and that and so on. So this instant of perception becomes more and more complicated and more sophisticated, because in every instant of perception we have to add all the knowledge of what was the origin of the everything. So yeah, that's the problem of time and space, but I'm not very good to explain this, you should ask a Kempo.
It would be interesting to have a discussion between a Buddhist scholar and maybe a biologist. That would be exciting, I think.
Yes, but I think that the main thing is, if you don't understand basically the true truth, the fact that things can be at the same time ultimately empty, the clarity of mind makes a relative manifestation, and the thing that time and space is just a subjective reality, it's very difficult to have a coherent discussion. Because one is going to talk about the law of evolution, and the other one is going to say that everything appears from instant to instant in the mind. So where is the meeting, It's a two subjective reality which have no common ground, so it's very difficult to communicate. Or they have to make a lot of effort.
What's the most intense question in your life at this point that you would like to figure out?
I have no question. No, really. I'm surprised sometimes that I don't have any plan for future. I have plans because my teacher asked me to do certain things, and it's a feeling of duty. So I will do these things, and I know what I have to do in that sense. But it's not not related with what I want to do. And when I look what I want to do, it's all little things like this here and there, but very, very passing, you know. Just like go to the museum or see this or that. I have no big question for the future.
And little ones?
No, really, I can't see.
Because, like, in talking with you, I realized that you know so many details about life that I don't know. Like, you know how crack is made, for example. I had no idea.
Because I'm just open to anything. I'm like a sponge, you know. I have no a priori about what is good to be heard or not, what is good to be read or not. I read everything. So whenever I'm sitting somewhere, I find a magazine, I read the magazine. And I have maybe a good memory, so whatever I read, I remember it. And when I discuss with people, I'm interested in what they do, and so we go in discussions, and then, so it's just like a computer, that's all, nothing more. I just got a very big software. That's all, there is nothing special in that. And yeah, because basically I'm interested. I'm curious by nature. So I just, when I see something, I want to know how it works, and what's the use of that, and so on. And I try to, yeah, just, I'm not looking to know something. I'm not looking to but of course my life is just made of many encounters, and I read a lot, and so I got a lot of information. But if you just open your ears, it's just 100% of the time information are coming. So it's only we make a selection in it. We just say this I'm interested in, this I'm not interested in. But I don't have any a priori about what I'm interested in not. I just swallow like a sponge, yeah, like a sponge. Maybe one day I'll be saturated.
How about your master Gendun Rinpoche? You once told me that he had visions of the local deities of the place where the monastery was built, and that he seemed to see something like a druid procession there. It seems that information can exist throughout time and can also be received if the receiver is ready. Sure. In what way did your exchange with Gendun Rinpoche happen?
I exchanged with him.
The exchange with him, because it seems that sometimes you exchange by just being with somebody in the same space.
What I see more and more now, it's that my wishes, my desire, they're getting smaller and smaller all the time. And then inside there is the vision of Gendun Rinpoche getting bigger and bigger. It's not like my ego is shrinking, you know, into nothing, and it's like a crush in a corner. It's just like there is a transformation. And this view and this vision, now I see why is it important to make a monastery, why is it important to... And this is a blessing of my teacher. But he gets from his own teacher, from the 16th Gyalwa Karmapa. He got this indication. He came in Europe because he was asked by his own teacher. He came in Europe to do a retreat center, because he was asked. And there was a shift maybe of blessing and vision. What is the best to do and what is the most useful. And there is this shift now. And part of me is reluctant because I would like to do my own things, but there is less and less desire for my own things, or it's just last grips, you know, and they're just fading away. And there is this understanding what has to be done. And so I'm going just to follow this, but there is nothing personal in that. So the exchange is there. I think it's just like water into a cup. And the water is the water of the cup then, but it was the water of the teacher. So that's my exchange with Rinpoche. It's just, it's just an offering. It's a giving up in the sense that ego just fade away. And there's just like at the dawn, you know, you've got the light going up, and then the night fade away, and then the earth is enlightened by the sun, and slowly this takes place.
Sometimes it helps to hear about experiences students had with their spiritual teachers. It helps to develop some confidence. Could you tell one or two events with your teacher?
There's so many things, you know. It's very difficult to express them because they're so subtle. They're so You cannot grasp them. You feel them, but you cannot grasp them. I think one of the capacity of Rinpoche is to be always in your mind, and not letting you know that is in your mind, and making very, very subtle allusion or little subtle transformation, so that you see that he's knowing a lot of things, and then you know that you can be relaxed because there is nothing to hide, and also at the same time that he's taking more and more space in terms of vision, in terms of blessing in the mind, and this, I think this is the most essential experience, the experience of I wouldn't say the sameness of mind, but there is no difference. For example, very often I have many questions. I'm like worried with a problem. Like I was talking about loneliness and so on yesterday, and then this question came up the next day in an interview. He was not talking to me directly, but he was talking to me. Another time, I was talking with somebody about the view of Vajrayana, and it's a very good friend. So I was very, very precise and direct in the view that I may develop in this sense, and then maybe what is good to see and so on. It was but maybe I went a little bit too far in explanation of what has to be done, in that sense that this person has to do her own way, her own progression. And when you say things too early, it's like bringing preconception in the mind, and people think that that's what we have to do instead of trying to have their own experiences. So the next day I was translating, like every morning when I'm in the monastery for Gendun Rinpoche, and there was one woman who came for some question where she absolutely had no relation with the Vajrayana. And then the first thing Rinpoche said to her, to this person, so through me as a translator, is that when we teach Vajrayana, we should be very aware of who we are addressing to and what we say. And then this woman didn't understand. She said, why is he telling me that? I don't even know what Vajrayana is. And he was really looking at me like this, So I just said, okay, got it. And so this kind of event happens very, very often. When we were in retreat and there was little tensions or little things that what we were thinking Rinpoche would know about it, it would come the next day and said, oh, this night I had a dream, I dreamed this and that, and it was just what we were talking about. So it was always very, very subtly, but like I know what is in your mind and so on. And this is a sign, not that is Big Brother watching you, but that the mind really start to merge, and there is a real Go Yoga taking place. So in this sense, you are naked, but there is no shame, because he knows your inner thoughts, but at the same time, that's the mind, and so he has no, there is no judgment in that. It's just what is the best for your progression, what is the best to do.
Do you see the jobs of the monastic community and the vocations of the lay community, do you see them as different?
I think in the future, I'm speaking for Dagpo Kagyiling, I don't know for the rest of Europe, but I'm very involved in the administration of Dagpo Kagyiling, the European seat of His Holiness Karmapa, and with the monastery. So it's like a lay community and a monastic community. I see that, personally, I think in the future they're going to work together very much, and it's going to be two complementary forces. The lay community, by definition, is very much more involved into actual practice, actual work, and much more involved in the world, in the life, in every aspect, and so this capacity or this tendency should be used. So they should be really like the base of the centers, the Dharma centers. They should really think that center is I don't know how to say it in English, l'œuvre d'une vie, the work of one life, a life's work, and so that their Dharma practice is going to go through making a center, making a place where people can come and receive the Dharma and so on. And so they can, as they build up the center, they build up themselves. And I think this is the future for the lay Sangha, the lay community. The monastic community probably in the future will be a holder of the tradition, to be able to practice all the aspects of the rituals, all the aspects of the practices and so on, requires a lot of time, and you have to be 100% free for that. So I think that the work of the monastic community will be really the meditation and the keeping the tradition, because the tradition are very important. We have to keep that, because we are now in a society where we want to go to modern structure and new structure, and I'm afraid that if you drop the tradition too quickly, then you're throwing the water with the baby, of the bath. So tradition is very important, and that's the direction that Gendun Rinpoche and also Shamar Rinpoche gave us for the monastery. So our main function will be the meditation. So this includes making meditation, but helping people who want to do retreat, having the structure for retreat, for 3-year retreat, but also for short-term retreat, where lay people can come in this structure and have all the key of the tradition explained and so on, to do a regular practice, maybe do the path on several occasions in their life instead of making it in 3 years. And also traditional functions of the monastic sangha in the past was taking care of the dead people, making all the rituals or the prayers for the dead people, and taking care of what happened after life. We had the idea of some social work also for a while for the monastic community, and Rinpoche was not very enjoyed by this possibility. He said that maybe part-time, if we really want to do it, part-time, but he really insisted on the fact that we should continue the meditation. Actually, a monastery is not a monastery, it's called hermitage. Rinpoche really insists on that he said, if you have a practice which is regular, then the material conditions will come. So the blessing will be there and will be helpful. So this would be an hermitage. If you don't have a regular practice and then you mixed up practice with a lot of activity because you're attached to agitation, then it will become a monastery. And then if you don't do anything, this will be just a village, just a town. So we are very focalizing on meditation. And even I'm administrator, so I have to think also in terms of money, of market. And if you got a specialization, you have to keep it and make it even sharper. Because we can do many things, but everybody does many things, and maybe sometimes better than us. We have a specificity, which is the meditation of the Kajupa lineage, with a true transmission of a perfect lineage. So our job is to keep that perfect and true, and to understand it and realize it, and then we can pass it and share with people. So that's really our specificity. That's our market, so to say, if we're talking that money way, worldly way.
I think this could be a moment to stop.
Yeah. If you have any questions, ask. Thank you for these nice questions.